Loud. Okay. Excellent. So this is the Rupture to Rapture workshop. And it's about taking your trauma and your grief and turning it into comic relief, which I know sounds like a very tall order, but we've already found in our intros that it is possible to quite quickly take something that's heartbreaking and turn it into something that's quite hilarious. So I just find this to be an incredibly healing practice. This workshop today is on finding the funny. Tomorrow we're meeting again at the same time. Please feel free to come back. It's about being the funny, and it's a little bit more about comedic writing and storytelling and thinking techniques, because I think it's also really important to think comedically. Like, even if we never step foot on a stage or never do any formal comedy writing of any kind, for yourself, for your children, for your clients, to tap into the finding the funny and being the funny just makes life easier and more fun. And I've been joking recently, because I have insomnia, putting it out there, that now I've learned to play with myself, because at night now with my insomnia, I tell jokes to myself all night long, and I think of connections between words. And so my hope is that you learn to play with yourself more from all of this comedic writing and training. So I hope these workshops today and tomorrow crack you up, but also crack you open. I hope you find them both fun and healing. There is darkness and there is light. There's heartbreak and hilarity. And as we've already discussed today, there's pain and pleasure. And that we have to keep inviting that in. We have to keep practicing the art of finding the pleasure within the pain, of finding the hilarity within the heartbreak, because I think those are muscles too that that we could lose if we don't continue to practice them. So when you can make a tragedy a comedy, you take your power back and you free yourself. I say this all the time. Like, I love the idea that we can reclaim our power and reclaim our joy. And I know that sounds so big. And sometimes I think, is this possible that we could actually reclaim our power through humor? And now, after doing this for a year and a half for myself, for my son, I know for us it's been life-saving. And now I'm starting to see it with my clients, with my one-on-one clients, with my Roar with Laughter clients and groups. And it keeps proving itself to be true. So I'm really excited about it. And my new favorite emotion is laughter through tears. And I wonder if it is yours already. And if it's not, perhaps it will become your new favorite emotion. So if you're here, I'm going to assume that you want to go a little bit deeper than you typically would, or at least you want to try something different and maybe scary. And I think that's incredibly brave. And I appreciate all of your bravery for just coming to something you're like, you don't know what to expect. So good on you. I think that doing something scary, something that brings us out of our comfort zone, is exactly what brings us into our zone of genius. I think it's where all the magic happens. I think it's where all the change happens. And so I encourage you today to share, or perhaps even write in the chat or later share out loud things that you maybe never even shared before, because this is, I hope, a very safe and empathetic space. So if you feel called to share, please feel free to do so. Obviously, we need to honor everybody's privacy and confidentiality. So whatever is said today in this workshop stays in this workshop. And if we continue tomorrow, if you come back tomorrow, we'll honor the fact that what you shared today is still within the container of today, and that it won't dribble into tomorrow unless you invite it to. So also, if you find that there's things that I suggest or say that just don't resonate with you, obviously, like, take what works and then throw away what doesn't, because I absolutely believe in this healing with humor work and in my personal training work that you know your body best. You know what feels good in your body. You know what feels good to say and to think. So honor that, honor your intuition, and and just take these as suggestions and ideas, and hopefully some will stick. Feel free to later on email me or contact me privately if you want to have a continued discussion one-on-one. I would absolutely honor that. So yeah, let's get started. We're going to do a little meditation just to get grounded, because I know for me, if I'm doing something new and scary, or just entering a space with people I've never met before, that sometimes I get a little swirly and anxious, and I just want everybody to feel nice and safe and grounded. So if it's comfortable for you, close your eyes. If not, just sit and relax and watch. It's going to be like 2 minutes. So it's one of my favorite meditations. I also teach yoga and laughter yoga and gentle, more traditional yoga. But one of my favorite meditations is the ocean meditation, and it incorporates the ocean breath. So see if it's comfortable for you to just sit and relax with eyes open or closed, and take nice deep breaths in and out through the nose. If it's uncomfortable breathing in and out through the nose, feel free to breathe in and out through the mouth. But notice as you breathe in, the in breath is cool, and notice as you breathe out, the out breath is warm. And notice where your body moves with breath. And see if you can send some softness down into the belly, so that as you inhale, the belly expands. And as you exhale, the belly draws back to the spine. So in this ocean breath, it's going to feel like a wave of breath rising and falling in the body. So as we inhale, it starts in the belly, and then we fill the lungs, the chest, and at the top of the wave, right around the collarbones, this is the crest of the wave, we pause. And on the exhale, we release from the chest, the lungs, and then the belly. So inhale, we expand and we feel the rising, the wave up. There's a pause at the crest of the wave. And on each exhale, the releasing, relaxing, chest, lungs, belly. The bottom of the breath, at the bottom of the exhale, notice that pause and stillness. And what I like to imagine is all of the waves that are often turbulent on the surface of the ocean. And this represents, of course, our life and all of the uncertainty, and this year especially, all of the turbulence and trauma and loss that we've experienced this year. This is all up on the surface, but below the surface, there's this never-ending pool of deep serenity and calm that we can tap into. So whenever I'm wanting to feel grounded, I focus on that exhale, and I imagine myself kind of diving under, deep into the ocean. If you want to picture a pool or a lake instead of the ocean, that's fine. But everything kind of fades away. You start to hear the sounds of the water and the bubbles, and maybe you see fish or rocks, but it's just you. See if you can settle into that for a few deep breaths. Inhaling and exhaling, the waves rise and fall. Enjoying that peace and calm and stillness at the bottom of your exhale. And try one more slow, deep breath in and deep breath out. Good. And maybe you're imagining yourself swimming now. Maybe you're imagining yourself skinny dipping now. But you come back up to the surface and you join us again when you feel ready. Welcome back. Hopefully that was calming. Hopefully it's imagery that you can return to if it helps you, if it serves you. Thank you for doing that. I know I myself needed some calm breaths, and I imagine at the end of this year, we all did. So in that, notice when we just get really quiet with ourselves, sometimes a lot of emotion comes up. This is why yoga and meditation is hard, because of the stillness. It's not the postures. It's not holding in warrior one or warrior two and feeling the thigh burn. It's sitting and being quiet and still with our thoughts. And all of a sudden, flooded emotions, and often spontaneous tears and laughter arise in yoga and meditation in the stillness. So when we come to that place of heightened awareness, often we remember things that are difficult. And so I want you to acknowledge all the things that you've already endured, not just this year, but in your life, all that you've already survived, all that you've already persisted through, acknowledging and honoring your resilience, your courage. This year has been a year of uncertainty and probably some fear and probably some loss. And here we are wanting to learn about how to laugh through it. So yay, you, really, really good. We have 100% track record of bouncing back from whatever trauma we've been through because we're all here. I love that idea. Like we've overcome every single one of them because we're just here now. So as all those thoughts start to swirl in your head, feel free to toss down in the chat. And again, this is only if it feels comfortable. Something that you have overcome, something you've bounced back from. You don't need to go to the darkest, hardest places right now unless you want to, but something that you've bounced back from. I am writing in the chat, divorce. That was not fun, but I bounced back from it. Didn't think shingles. Yes, good one. Good, good. Yeah. So we've already found out broken heart, that we can survive things and we could do hard things. Divorce too. Yes, yes. Perimenopause. I'm not saying the names to protect you, but you guys can see it. Yeah, AP to me. Yeah, I am with you in the menopause thing. Yes, yes, yes. Joe, by the way, is an expert in menopause and finding the humor in menopause. So yay, reach out to Joe. Awesome. Good, good, good. So already in some of that, even though we were talking about what we've endured, there's some laughter and there's some joy and levity, which is awesome. And we could choose laughter, just like we found out in our hi Naomi, in our yoga classes, the laughter yoga classes that I was mentioning, that we can create the laughter, we can create the joy for ourselves. But we could do this also when we're thinking about our traumas and our heartaches. And to get there, I think it's important to acknowledge that our innate state is joy. Like we were born to feel good and joyful. This took me like 50 years to figure out, oh, even my innate state is joy. Like on a spiritual level, I have joy. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't look that way. But it's true. I believe this is true. And so I'm speaking directly to those of you who feel like, it's probably not in the cards for me. Like life's been really hard and I just don't know if I can find the humor and the comedy and the laughter in it. I first of all honor you for coming and showing up to this, but I also am excited because I think you'll be able to find it, because within and around the edges and around the margins of the traumas and the tragedies, we can find ways to laugh and we can find the comedy. And it does, again, take practice, but we're going to start doing that today. So acknowledging that if you did not grow up in a safe home or in a home that valued laughter or joy or pleasure, mine did not, this seems foreign, possibly even shallow, possibly even inappropriate to try to laugh about traumas. So noticing if joy and play was valued in your home, and if you feel comfortable tossing it down in the chat, I'll just do a yes, no, because that's easy. Was joy and play valued in your home? Way no. way no. I love it. Yes, yes. Brilliant. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's a truthful statement there. Thank you for sharing. Yes, when drunk. Yes, a little. So it looks like about half and half. And so, yeah, really, really good. And of course, a lot of our values around joy and pleasure are not just from our home growing up, but inherited from generations of trauma, generations of abuse, generations of addiction, generations of grief. And so acknowledging that we're really potentially breaking patterns from many, many generations past. My mother is German, and she said she was born in World War II, and in fact in a bombed out city, and then she was separated from her parents right away. Um, it was, she said, born at the wrong time, and she came into the world with grief. She feels like she inherited grief, and then I of course inherited hers, and so it goes on, and so it goes on. And I felt like that was going to be an overwhelming aspect of my life, and prevented me. I felt like it was going to prevent me from feeling joy or release. And so sometimes we have to get really fierce about this. So notice if you do have a similar story of inherited trauma or generations of trauma and grief, or that the value of laughter and joy was not in your home, and know that you can change the pattern. I know a lot of you in the group are also therapists and healers. My background marriage and family therapy, and we work with a systems series. And one of the my favorite things was a pattern of interactions, and that anytime we can change the pattern of our interactions, we can change the pattern in our life, we can change the patterns in our family, and we can start this generation on. We're going to value pleasure. We're going to value laughter. We're going to reduce shame. We're going to reduce sexual shame, religious shame, grief. So just notice what that brings up for you. And if it seems like something that you want to do, like, I want to stop this pattern, I want to start new, I want to parent my children differently than I was parented. When we undo and deal with the parts of ourselves that we are ashamed of, we release that shame and we become free. And that's the part of taking back our power. And I think when we say it out loud, we release the shame. So shame can't exist in a safe, empathetic space, but shame can also not exist if we release it. Our stories and our truths, holding them in and keeping the secrets is, I think, what becomes really toxic, and I believe even causes some physical pains in the body. Sometimes specifically, like if you're not speaking your mind or speaking your truth, your throat might be constantly tight or might be chronically in pain. There's a lot of emotions and traumas and secrets we hold in our pelvis, in our sacral chakra. And so notice where in your body you hold on to tension, or notice which parts of your body you often feel pain, and then just put it in the back of your head that it might be related to emotional traumas that you're holding on to, and see if that resonates with you, and see if that feels good. Now, I acknowledge that so far I've not said much funny. Sorry, but we have to like start here. It's like rupture to rapture, and it's just being truthful. It's like this, life isn't always just all fun and happy. So we start with like the truth, like what's actually going on right now. We've already mentioned some of the things that are going on in our life that are hard, and they'll continue to possibly be hard even in 2021, which is not this magical, woo, everything's gonna be better. So some of you already know this story, but my journey to laughter and humor was through grief. And I often say I found this work on the bathroom floor at Boston Children's Hospital. And that's a time that I remember the voice in my head, call it a calling or a knowing, that said, this is the one thing you haven't tried and you need to try this. My son, who's now 13, was then 11 when he became very ill, was in he is in still chronic pain, and was in so much pain, relentless pain, that he wanted to take his own life. And then I, as a mommy of my 11-year-old boy who was suffering, did not feel like I could survive losing him. I did not think, I couldn't think my way out of this. We tried the therapies, we tried yoga, we tried meditation, we tried medication and all the treatments, and we were stuck in this place of pain, constant pain and grief. And it lasted several months. And something like 300 doctors and hospital visits and daily medications. It was a horrid time. And when he continued to say he wanted to take his life, I felt like there was no choice other than to start clawing ourselves out of it and try something radical. And at that moment on the bathroom floor of Boston Children's Hospital, when they told us he'll always be in pain, which I hope is not true, nonetheless, we I said, what have we not tried? And what is the farthest thing from what we've tried? Because we've tried all the crying, we tried the grieving, we tried the hurting, we tried the efforting, but could we find humor? Could we laugh about this? And I brought it up to him on the ride home, and he thought this was a fantastic idea. So almost immediately, we started laughing through our doctor's visits and through the hospital visits, anything from the terrible decor in the hospital to horrid bedside manner to how they can make the medicines taste worse. There's a lot funny that goes on in the hospitals. Even people who work hospice talk about how funny hospitals and just the whole scene of dying can be. I bet you terrified the doctors. Yeah, we did. We would be laughing. In fact, we would be laughing in the room because they put us in, we put them in like paper gown in the freezing cold room, no, sign of how long they'd be or what the treatment would look like. And we'd laugh at how awful that was. And we'd laugh, and then they'd come in, and then they wouldn't assume that he was hurting as much as he was because we were laughing. So we had to learn to not laugh when the doctors came into the room, because we had to, make it seem as big and as bad as it was, so that they would take us seriously and not just send us home. So yes, yeah, I'm sure it confused several of the doctors and nurses before we learned that lesson. But we had nowhere to go. We had nowhere to go other than up. And it was paradoxical, and it felt sometimes really odd and inappropriate that we were laughing our way through these doctor's visits. But I started to see a shift in him. And the biggest shift came, and I hope this is in service to you as parents or potentially grandparents with kiddos, whether they're sick and ill or just struggling with life, is that I would, at the end of every day, tell them to play a practical joke on me, give them something to look forward to, something that's fun. And I said, as long as it doesn't hurt me, you can do it. I kind of regretted it sometimes, but he would put, dishwash soap on my toothbrush. He would tape, like duct tape, the toilet seat closed. He would put tape on the faucet so that when I turned it on, it would spray everywhere. And it was fun. And he would go to sleep laughing and feeling less pain because he was laughing. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I was able to sleep better. He was able to sleep better. And then we could wake up and stay in the game. So I found it life-saving. I know I say I feel like healing with humor is life-saving, but it truly was and is for us. So paradoxical, yes. Effective, also yes. Laughing through tears, very possible, very possible. So how can we take our power back and heal by taking the tragedy and turning it into comedy? I know we mentioned this in the beginning a little bit. Usually, and the formula, there's like math and comedy, which cracks me up. The formula is time plus tragedy equals comedy. The time varies. Like after 9/11, I believe it was 9 days before SNL decided they could go back on. But for those of you who were laughing like right away after what you mentioned in the icebreakers, almost simultaneously, or just minutes after, or within the day. And so you don't have to wait a long period of time. But obviously, if you're in the middle of something very sad or tragic, give yourself the time to move through the hard emotions before you feel like finding the comedy. It's different for everybody. I was challenged by one of my coaches to start writing about Jamie's illness. And I said, no, it's not time yet. I can't laugh about Jamie's illness yet because he's still sick. And her suggestion was just see how it feels. And lo and behold, I started writing about the illness and the pain and the suicide. And it relieved so much of the heaviness that I was holding on to, because I was holding the fear of losing him as a secret. And as soon as I let that go, it released a lot of the pain. So take that equation and plug it into your situation, depending on the situation, as it feels good. Yep. Okay. I will see you later. Thank you. Good. Yes. So we started finding the funny, and part of it was researching. This is really nerdy, but like researching how to find the funny. And when I found that this is what all comedians do, most all comedians I've ever now known personally or read about have enormous heartache and tragedy and trauma in their background. And they chose comedy to heal themselves from it and then to heal and liberate the audience members through their comedy. So it is not as unusual as I anticipated it to be. And I think it's brilliant, again, that you can look up any heartache that you're feeling and find a comedian who's probably doing some stand-up or comedic storytelling about it. How do we do this though? Like practically, how do we move from rupture to rapture? First, we stay in the rupture and we acknowledge the pain. We move through those emotions. Now, there's lots of ways to move through negative emotions. I don't know how many of you are familiar with there's a new book out that a lot of people are talking about called Burnout, but moving through the stress cycle. And one of the ways is laughter, but there's also other brilliant things that you've probably already tried, but exercising and going outside and connection and dancing, or even just shaking, wiggling it all out, but moving through the stress cycle so that it's not stuck in your body. And letting that take whatever it is. It could be a day, a week, a month, a year, but moving through it and allowing yourself to sit with the pain and then move through the pain. Like you're not going to jump from tragedy to comedy right away. Unless it's already in your practice. And for those of you, interestingly, that mentioned they had, you're in the field of comedy, I know. So it's practice that gets us to this point. So write down in the chat, if you would, your favorite way of moving through stress. Like if you're having a stressful day, do you write? Do you draw? Do you go outside? Do you laugh? Do you lie in the bathroom floor and cry? Do you take a shower? Do you call a friend? Do you watch a comedy? Do you fill in the blank? What is your favorite way? Oh, I'm with you on the chocolate. Yep, chocolate, exercise, meditation, telling a story, talking it out. All so good. Brilliant. Yes, exercise, walking in nature, connecting with a friend. Walking, meditation, breathing, talking, singing, nice. The comedy stand, brilliant. Meditation and moving the body. Good. Oh, so good. I love that you all have this in your practice already. And maybe you're looking at somebody else who's going, ooh, yeah, that could work too. But notice they all involve some sort of movement, whether it's movement of the entire body or movement of the mouth. Like you don't want to just sit still with it. You want to release it and let it. I just sometimes scream, which is why I called the program Roar. Roar with laughter is not just roaring with laughter. It's also roaring in anger, roaring in rage, roaring in fear, roaring in grief, like releasing it and getting it out of the body. So notice what gets stuck in your body. Notice what emotions are stuck. And this is where the writing and the rupture to rapture begins to open up. If you start thinking about what it is that needs to release, what it is that needs to be told. So what emotion and story are you holding on to? Or what emotion and story is stuck in your body? And if you feel safe sharing it, feel free to do so. But notice if there's something that you're like, ooh, that's the thing that I never talk about. I'll and I won't say that your names out loud, obviously. So I am writing, just for those that are watching the replay. No, I have stuck in my body fear of suicide, some fear of abandonment. I did a recent comedy routine on sexual shame. There's religious shame. Yeah, shame's going to come up a lot. Absolutely. And notice how that feels to even just write it down, which is super brave. Like whether you're thinking it and coming to awareness about it, or whether you're writing it down or saying it out loud, anxiety and fear around physical safety. Yes, shame. Yes. And is it even empowering or releasing to reveal that, to reveal those thoughts and emotions, physical shame, anxiety around visibility? Yes. Yes, good. Good job putting it out there and being visible, just writing those words. Excellent. Sometimes I'll even write it in the air. Like at first I couldn't, I mean, suicide was a hard word to write, to think even in my head. And so I would write it in invisible ink, and then I'd write it in invisible ink on the paper, and then I'd type it. And now I talk about it all the time. And it doesn't hold as much power over me. Fear of success. Yes. Yeah. And so those would be the topics that you would potentially start to think comedically about, or write about, or even perform about. And some of you I know have already performed on stages or created stages of your own, or done online. A couple of you are ROAR grads. And so it is cathartic to release it. And every single one of these is completely relatable. So when you tell your story, you are healing and liberating yourself and anyone else who's listening to the story, because we can all relate to all of these things. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for sharing all those. Those are really, really good. Yeah. Good. So we take one of those subjects, like think about one of those subjects in your mind, and ideally you're actually thinking of the one that is the most emotionally charged. And if that doesn't feel comfortable for you right now, think of the next one on the list. Like we could do this in a list form in our head, or you could write it down. There's lots of different exercises. If we had more time, we would really go deep into saying, okay, what would be maybe your top 5 things you'd want to release, but start thinking about what would be really healing to think comedically about, or start writing about, and start to let go of the drama and the judgment, the criticism, the expectations, all this stuff that comes up, and you kind of stand back from it a little bit, and with that perspective, and witness yourself thinking about writing about this, or thinking about laughing about this. Like, how does that feel? And if it feels scary, then maybe take a step back and think of something else. Or if it feels like, ooh, that's kind of work that could be really important and healing, then stay there with it. But be very patient and kind with yourself, and trust yourself to know what your limits are. And consider if within the shame and the fears and visibility, and one big fear that comes up a lot is abandonment. Consider that if we don't fully show ourselves, if we don't fully authentically show up for ourselves and those around us, we're actually inviting in that abandonment, because we're never feeling known. And so one of the greatest gifts, I think, of all of this work is to be seen and heard and known. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a comedy stage, though I think that's a really fun and brilliant way to do it. But even just within your friendships, your relationships, or yourself, to be seen and heard and truly known. I can't think of much more healing than that. So let's start to weave the humor and creativity in. And it's not like, oh, death is funny or suicide is funny. It's not the direct thing. It's around the edges and the margins of it, and in the nooks and crannies of it. Sometimes it's in the absurdity of it. Like, it's so bad it's funny. Sometimes it's ironic. Sometimes the timing is funny. So notice around the edges of what it is you're thinking about, and see if you can make it a little bit less heavy or less threatening. There's a term called dark comedy or dark humor, which is about how absurd and even funny some life-threatening and very scary things are. But working through that is creating that resilience. So set it into the chat if there's any questions or anything right now, and then we're going to do a little bit of workshopping really quick. Any questions or anything? So this is actually Jerry Seinfeld's idea, but it's a comedian that I really appreciate. So writing the story in your head without the funny, and then taking out one sentence from it in your head, and then writing the jokes just about that, or thinking of the funniness about that. It's not like the whole story of my son's illness is funny, but I can think to little moments that have been funny. I would love to a chance to say hi and share now that I'm not. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you do you mean out loud? Tanya?
I just had to check in, and it doesn't have to be now, Pasha. I just had a really cool experience at the Comedy Stand, and I think it's fitting. So.
Go for it. Go for it. Bring it.
So hi everyone. I'm Tanya from Vancouver, or Tanya in the States. Um, all good. I love it because it's my favorite joke. I was just at the Comedy Stand, and that's where I sort of dialed in from. So I've made myself a comedy stand. I've always wanted to be on stage. No one invited me to there, so I made my own. Um,
I love it.
my comedy is but my humanitarianism is alive and well, and I'm using the comedy opportunity to connect with real people. So I'll share just quickly what happened for me at the stand today. I've been out there for 6 months, every Tuesday and Thursday, 11:30 to 1:30, advocating for mental health and connecting with human beings. Today, I felt like maybe, oh, I'll just take a break. It's not a big deal. Nobody's really going to care. I've just had a really profound experience with comedy and tragedy. And there's a whole lot more than hilarity going on at the Comedy Stand. The first person that came to see me today literally fell apart in front of me. And there was nothing funny about that. We shared a few laughs at first, introducing ourselves. And then he disclosed to me about his sexual abuse and fell into a pile of tears on the floor, on the ground in front of me. And what he doesn't understand is the profound impact that that has on me, knowing that my comedy has meaning. My children were molested growing up. I've been through that gamut. I've been through the court systems. I've been through all of the stuff that, as Pasha said, wasn't inherently funny. There was no direct relation to funny at that point in time. And there was a point in time in my life when I believed that I would never smile and never laugh again. Nearly 20 years ago, thankfully. But the capacity that I've built through humor, through building that muscle, and through really understanding that tragedy and comedy are related, they're intertwined. It was my children who smiled first, and it inspired me to want to smile again. And it was about 3 years ago when my mom gave me a comedy course that I actually felt seen and heard for the first time. And when I stepped onto that stage, I knew that my passion and my purpose was aligned with using comedy as a tool. And so even though there's a ton of trauma and a ton of tragedy in my past, I'm learning to look at things through a compassionate eye. And today was real proof that the work that I'm doing is vital and important. And even though we were crying, he left feeling seen, he left feeling heard, and he's going to plug into a comedy community and allow himself the healing that he needs. So he has my physical phone number. It's just a lovely 24-year-old boy that has never had a place to put that before, and so he came and put it at the feet of the Comedy Stand, and I feel so blessed. So as much as I'm crying, comedy is so important, and it houses all of those feelings. So I think what you're doing is great, Pasha. I love watching your students recount some of their tragedies and turning them into comedy, and I think it's important work, and I'm very appreciative, and I'm thankful to be here in little spurts throughout what you're teaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, brilliant work. I have goosebumps, not just on my arms, but all over. And the gift you gave that young man is so precious. And yeah, you're definitely living your purpose, woman. Yes, yes. And I love that you said you were seen and heard for the first time on a comedy stage. And I don't know if people would know to look there. And then this man came and saw you living your truth, and then that inspired him. It's beautiful. Well, we could just shut down right now because you just wrapped it all up to us. It's beautiful. And there goes all the guests. Yes. Thank you, Paul, for coming. Join us tomorrow if you can. We're going to do being the funny, which is going to get into a little bit more of comedic technique and specific writing, but we like have to work through the muck first. Yeah, because you can't just dive right in. And just like you just said, Tanya, so beautifully, they're interwoven. They're interwoven. And yet, I will kind of leave with this thought, and then I'm going to open it up and get off recording in case anybody wants to share more. But it used to be when people would say something, or I would go through something tragic and sad, I would really get stuck in it for a very long time. Like, I was hard to bounce back, it was hard to forgive, it was hard to work through. And now, I don't know if this is true for some of you, but it's like, oh, this is going to be a joke one day. Like, now, really quickly, this is true. My therapist, marriage therapist, we were talking, my husband and I, to him, and we were talking about past affairs and infidelity. Not funny. And I was asking my husband, I'm like, well, what could I do? What could I do differently so that you won't do this again? And he's like, I mean, it's just like, I want you to know, I want to know that you love me and just care about me, like easy little stuff, like making me a sandwich. And I'm like, what? Like, he's like, just make me like, he's like, I know it sounds weird, just like make me more sandwiches. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be the funniest joke one day. And then I started thinking in my head, like, really, a sandwich? Like, it would just be like a bologna sandwich? Would this be like a two-faced sandwich? Would you like a side of wedding soup with that? Like, in my head, I was like, blah, blah, blah. But it was like seconds after him telling me I needed a sandwich. Before, I would have been like, like, for a long time, I would have sat with that. So I love that as we build this muscle, like you're saying, like, we can really quickly bounce back, and it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun when the cans dump on your head and you're like, this could be funny, and it becomes funny, then you're not like as angry and stuck in all the muck as much. Yay. Yes. So things that weren't funny that are now funny, like toss it down in the chat, like something that, like, when you were going through it, not funny at all, and now you look back, you're like, huh, well, there was that one moment that kind of, yeah, betrayal, I'm with you. Yeah, like around the edges of that was kind of funny in retrospect, or with perspective. It could be a year or 10 years later, living with a cocaine addict. Yeah, not funny at the time, right? How long did that take from these moments to later? Yes, my partner's testicular cancer, hysterical. Yes. And notice if it's funny, reproductive health issues, perimenopause. Yeah. And it's the funny of things, even as serious as death. Is the funny the absurdity of it? Was it in the timing of it? Like, it came at the, like, that was the worst timing ever, or the best timing ever? Or was there irony in it? And just notice what allows that to be funny. And if you start thinking back on all of those traumas and heartaches, even the ones you thought of in the beginning that really were very emotionally charged, if you start thinking about how you could weave in the comedy and the humor around it, you could start to rewrite it. You could actually rewrite the story, plugging in the sentences of the humorous parts within it. So rather than the journal entry being full of the sadness and the heaviness, you could go back and rewrite that experience and those memories through the lens of humor. That's a very powerful exercise that I would highly encourage you all to do. And tomorrow we'll talk about just a little bit more about specific writing. And if you can't make it to tomorrow, I'll tape it just like I did today. So I'm going to turn off the recording in a moment so we can chit chat as you like, or if you like. But I will say that if anything today triggered a feeling in you, like, whoa, this could actually really work for me to start writing comedy, or to think comedically, or to be on a comedy stage, you are in luck, because I happen to run a program called Roar with Laughter, which is an 8-week group coaching program where women, right now, I'm doing this for women, where we reclaim our power and our voices and our desires and our laughter and our joy on the comedy stage. And we tell those heartbreaking stories, but we turn them into hilarity and healing. And it's fun. It's powerful. It's transformative. We start again in January 6th, I believe, for our 6th season. So we're super excited about that. And then I also offer one-on-one coaching. If you want to do the work, but you don't want to do it in a group and you don't want to do it on a comedy stage yet, completely understandable. Everybody needs to work at their own pace within the, constructs of what feels right to you in your body. So reach out to me. You can message me, you can email me, you can hop on the website, easyroarwithlaughter.com. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to shut down the recording, but y'all can stay here with me, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow in part 2 of rupture to rapture, but tomorrow being the funny. Awesome. Thank you.